We're going to get started here. So as I said, I'm Nancy Mura. I just want to thank the sponsors who make all this possible. The sponsors are Survival Strategies. They are a training and consulting firm that's been training and consulting private practice for 34 years. And some of their amazing clients are on here, Jessica and Beth. And I think I just saw Susan Gregg getting on. And then, of course, that's a great segue into the infamous one and only Paul Silovsky, who I will tell you a little bit about. So Paul is one of Survival's longest long-term clients. He came on board with Survival, I don't know, a bunch of years ago. Beth just sent me pajamas. Do they have lemons on them, Beth? Maybe they have oranges for the juice. I don't know. We're gonna have a pajama party. I'm gonna wear my lemon pajamas. Anyway, thanks, Beth. So Paul's been with Survival for years. He's done every program. He is what we call a power of choice completion, which means he's done every program. So what does that look like? That looks like Paul has 2 locations, and he's really navigated a lot of things, and we're going to talk about them today so we can impart his wisdom. He's really got hiring and retention down because of his system that he put in that I love. And we're going to talk about this because this is really thinking with the future in mind. And Paul, not only does he have that, his staff have been with him. I said, oh, wow, so-and-so's been with you like 15 years. And he's like, she's a baby. People with me 22 years. Okay, how do you do that? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. And so Paul's got 28 years. He's what I call a master CEO. Like, he's just got it. And he has done what we call phase 2. Phase 2 in your business is when it is so run like a smooth oiled machine that you can actually have your practice in Topeka, Kansas, and live in Nashville, Tennessee, and help raise up your grandbabies and have a life there, knowing that you're going to get this nice paycheck and that everything is just going to run, and you're just going to go in like, I don't know. How often do you go in, Paul? How often do you go into Nashville now?
I go one week a month at this point. I'm still in weekly. I just did I have a weekly call with each of my executives, and
sure,
and we still get together as a group every Friday. I mean, I'm not like, completely just, I my wife does the grandbaby thing because she homeschools them in the house that we built here. So we built a schoolroom, and it's our ideal scene. We created that. Like, okay.
Built a schoolroom. Do you hear this, guys? This is what is possible when you get order in, and you can think with these other great ideas that you have, instead of like, oh my gosh, we ran out of copy paper. Like, those are the things that you owners are like freaking out on, like all these things, like 3 people on maternity leave at the same time. All those fires have you guys like completely, in the beginning stages, hopefully not the whole length of time you're in practice. But these are the things that when you get real order and systems, and that's what Survival Strategies has. They call them programs, but they're really systems, full systems. So if you do the referral program because you need referrals, you don't need them for that anymore. There's not a dependency on consulting. So then you go on to the next thing, and you get really hatted, and your staff get hatted on that. So Paul, take it away and tell us how you keep your people. Tell us all of that. Because now this Great Resignation is
since we have a smaller group, I can do a little two-way communication back and forth and ask some questions to make it more meaningful for you guys. Because I've got a PowerPoint that I can do, and it's only a portion of what it's some of the backbone, I guess you'd say, of establishing some form of standardized recruitment campaign. You need to have a campaign that aligns obviously with your own core values and whatnot. And those all sound really nice, but I think the thing that gets lost, while everybody can create a great strategy and they can get some alignment with their existing staff, or everybody can agree, okay, we need, XYZ players. The tough part is the execution. How do you execute on your strategies? How do you continue to gain alignment? And bear in mind what Nancy's talking about has been developed over time. And a full disclaimer, to be honest, we're having to shift our recruitment strategies. And I'm at the point where the only way we're going, I'll tell you, the number one strategy that I have for my company right now is permanently posting a regular person in the area of hiring, a hiring officer. In other words, we're really good. Here's what we're really good at. When they arrive, we can close them. Okay. And everybody's got these barriers. So funny. People tell me, oh, you don't understand how hard it is to recruit here or there. Like, you know what? It's everywhere. It is. I mean, I'm going to have to open clinics in Kansas City just because I lose therapists to Kansas City. I got to quit bitching about losing therapists to Kansas City. I don't lose therapists because they don't like Rebound. I lose them because they get married and they move out of Topeka. Well, that's my fault. That's my fault. That's my problem. I've got good news is I got a bunch of good people in Kansas City that'll come work for us as soon as I pull that off. So the disclaimer part of this is I've realized recently that, so we're actually developing the entire hat for our company. I know this sounds crazy. Nancy's talking like we've got it all figured out. Well, we've continued to grow year over year. We're not massive. I mean, we're in the mid to upper 40s as far as number of staff, and it's a nice number, but it's about half of what it's going to be. As far as we now need to pull in more of these A-level players, which is what I'm talking about, and have someone constantly outflowing. We drive in a consistent flow of new business. I was just on with Craig last night. I had Craig talk to a management group that I started here in Tennessee just for kicks. I started a management group where I get together with all kinds of business owners every week, and I had Craig come in and talk. And I meant to show this graph, but our most correlative graph in our company is the active number of referral sources that we have. It relates to our income and it relates to our what I call accrual charges, our production. So it's like you lay those suckers over. I mean, they look like the same graph, as we go up quarter over quarter. And the reason I mentioned that is from a relationship development standpoint, we've got it with our company, but I realize we don't have a dedicated person that spends as much time and attention as we do on marketing for new patients. We communicate our asses off every week, and we're relentless with a good not just a good public image, but communicating with referral sources, potential referral sources, the community at large. We do a lot of outflow. I won't even get into how much we do. It's probably unreal to a lot of people how much communication we send out every week.
Give us an idea. Give us an idea.
Well, just we track the promotional items and just with emails, not Facebook posts, not Facebook ads, not Google ads, not banner ads, not all that stuff that we pay someone else to do. But somewhere between 100 and 110, 120,000 a week of impressions to folks, and that's print too, like newsletters, letters, and note cards, and I think it does include the personal stuff, but not the thousands and thousands of impressions that we create with our digital footprint. That does include emails, does not include Facebook posts and stuff like that.
So you don't think so for Rebound, hard copy promo is not dead? No.
Oh yeah, not at all. Again, it's not as directly correlative as our relationship development. I've heard so many people tell, referral development, going out and visiting folks and developing relationships. It's like, no, it's just the digital world. That's bullshit. It's total BS. It drives our income because personal contact is much more effective. And it's the same with recruitment too. Now I realized we haven't done enough promotional action. So one, we didn't have somebody there until recently. Now we have someone working with Janet, our VP of administration, working every day, developing our brand and our content and our messaging and our communication, so that we can greatly expand and get into the chat rooms, if you will. I mean, I'll use Handshake if you guys haven't heard of it, but for the university, there's something called Handshake. So, you've got to get in and engage and become a thought leader for students. And then you've got, the therapists that are out there that you want to hire. in the community. I'm going to show you guys a survey that we just did. I think you'll find it interesting. We surveyed 33 or 3,400, something. I got the statistics on it. I'll show you. We did a survey of the existing PTs. We also surveyed current and past employees as a separate survey, different question. I'll show you that question. And right now we're pushing out the survey to students, because surveys, this is all in my slide deck, by the way, and I'm just communicating with you guys now. I can show you the slide. I'm going to show you the surveys, but surveys are the key to statistics. Anybody that's worked with survival strategies in the realm of management. Nancy, I don't know if that piece of data is actually in the management program, but it was surveys are the key to stats, and you have to survey. I know you guys survey people.
We
or
survey,
have
yeah, we survey.
owner, you have the owners survey their staff before you start any program. Any brand new person, right? There's surveying that occurs so that you have the correct approach and the correct messaging down. So I'll survey you guys. Go ahead, Nancy. Do you have a question?
Oh, no, I was just going to say, like, we serve, that survey tech is just, it's such a simple idea, but it's like on the Palooza side, I'm not an owner, and Diane does 3,000 visits a week. So we're not in touch with the everyday average clinic. And so we survey, on Facebook, we survey to get the pain points. And that's how we develop agendas for things so that we can actually hit, hopefully hit the nail on the head with what they need. But we have Beth, Jessica, and Susan. You guys, most of you have done the management program. Is the survey material on there? Do y'all Southern girls remember? Do you recollect?
We did. I think when we were establishing like the quality control division, that was part of it. I think throughout they talk a lot about surveying staff.
Okay, good.
For various reasons, but definitely in the quality control part of it, I feel like that was where we touched on it.
Okay, got it. Thank you. So so super important. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, well, I mean, you don't know what's real to the endpoint, to the end consumer, and there's so many different public. Even in recruitment, there's so many publics. I mean, I'm gonna revisit past staff when I go to Kansas City. I'm gonna have to, reattract their interest. There's all the therapists in the area that we can recruit, and then of course students are a different public. So 3 different surveys. I'm going to show you two findings from that, just because I think I will show. I'll do a couple of quick slides, Nancy, and then I'll reopen the dialogue.
I just want to preface with one thing. I don't know if any of our, it's doubtful any of our SSI survival strategies clients are doing this, but I hear this all over the place. To stay competitive, people are really coming at new hires with trying to give them as much money as possible to be competitive. And I'm seeing a lot of owners really over the barrel by their staff. I mean, it is an employee market. Like when you're a realtor, there's a seller's market and a buyer's market. It is an employee market right now. But how do you not get, at some point in this, Paul, I just want to address not getting over a barrel. And we get people that look like they're making a ton of money. And when we analyze their statistics, we find out that 65-70% of their expenditure is payroll. And it's just ridiculous. And there's a great chapter in the Keys to Private Practice Success, which is a book that was written by one of the owners who's no longer here, that wrote a book, Keys to Private Practice Success. A lot of you guys have it, but there's a chapter on hiring based on duty versus people that want to just self-serve. And there is a lot of this entitled self-serving. How much am I going to get? How much PTO? So I want to make sure we keep that in somewhere, because I know you're not over a barrel by your staff.
No, we track, and I know there might be a little difference between adult and pediatric practices and the percentage or the ratio. I know as an owner, we just did our quarterly meet. I go the first week of every month back to Kansas because we do our monthly strat plan meeting with our execs the first Friday of every month. This last Friday was the end of the quarter, and I go over it with my guys. We look at the ratios, that a percentage of our cost of delivery that is labor cost and the overall payroll costs. And then, you know what, honestly, it gets easier to pay these guys when everybody has at least some awareness, not the same awareness that you would as an owner, but some awareness of what your payroll is to your gross income. I mean, what's the percent of payroll compared to gross income? You can do it per month if you want, like the payroll per month per gross income, and based on the number of your staff. Right. And as long as you're growing that, as long as you are mindfully able to grow that in this economy, I mean, reimbursement hasn't changed forever, but we've found ways to grow our income. And, one of the reasons that I have loved and still love working for Survival Strategies, Nancy, you'll love to hear that. I got a call with Craig on Friday because I'm requesting help with something that I want to develop. You guys are going to have a new program after, like it always happens with me. It's like I'm like a guinea pig, and I haven't been in the hopper for a while. But I told Craig, I said, let's just freaking talk, because I got this area that I've got to solve, and I don't want to spend a bunch of time. And I'm sure Barry or somebody can help me figure it out. Right.
That's amazing. See, never be afraid to ask for help, no matter what size you are. See, Paul left his ego at the door a long time ago. So just so you know, we're talking, throwing these names out. So Craig Ferreira is the CEO of Survival. He's just hands down, just the loveliest man on the planet, loves your profession. Started this in started consulting and training in a little house in one little town in California, and then grew it quite, it's still a boutique agency kind of feel, and Barry is our senior qual guy. So we have a guy that's just in charge of quality control and making sure that everything, everyone's happy and whatever. But just interesting that Paul would, however many years later, be like, hey, buddy, I need help. What do you got? Well, they probably will come. They probably will, because if Paul's got this problem, other people have this problem.
I guarantee you all have it.
Which means it'll turn into a program, which will be awesome.
Yeah. It may be already part and parcel. It's probably just the stuff I didn't do when I got trained. It's probably, sometimes it's that. I remember when I did the management training, and then I did an advanced, they came up with this advanced management program as a result of me. I said, hey, we're a lot better, but I still suck at certain things. So will you please de-suckify me, as far as make me better. So because I knew that's what it was going to take to expand to the next level, because I was still laying there going, oh God, what am I going to do about this? Is now I got all this going on. It was just new stuff, or stuff that I didn't really learn before. But so let me show you guys something. I'm gonna ask you some questions, and then we'll roll back here. So I can share my screen, right?
Yeah, you should be able to, hopefully.
Let me
wait, I might have to
no, I'm good here.
Okay, good.
From beginning. Okay, we talked about A-level players. You got, so really quick, and only because I can see you guys and pick on you, Beth or Jessica. Who else is? I guess those are the ones I can see. So Beth or Jessica, tell me what an A-level player would be for you guys. This is my quick survey. What would determine A-level in your business? What are some characteristics or core values that you would look for in an A player?
Well, for me, we have this thing called the leadership ladders. And so it's going to be somebody who's attaining things on that ladder. So we made a list of what all our A-level things would be, kind of the going above and beyond. It also has to do with who submits the most milestone moments and those success stories too, and just all these different things. So I think for us, having that list makes it pretty objective of who's doing the most, and we've assigned point values, and so we've found those ways.
So you've indexed it somehow. Okay. So now what about a potential hire, Beth? Give me an idea of what you might look like what it might look like for someone that's not even in your business. How would you identify an A player from a hiring perspective?
I think I look a lot at, like you were talking about, duty, really looking at what their why is. I look at maybe what drives them. If they are self-starters and take on initiative to learn things. I think that I see that there are a lot of people that seem to be stagnant and want people to be in charge of their growth. And so looking for people that have become the cause over learning more instead of waiting on someone to kind of be the effect of that, or things that I look for. And obviously people that, I look for maybe good organization skills, because that's going to play into the time management component of being in a really busy practice.
Perfect. No, those are great perspectives. I think, in your hiring process, you should definitely make sure in your interviewing and even if it's a phone call, but for sure when they're live, I think, having those predetermined qualifying factors really well defined, because I find a lot of guys or owners, guys and gal owners that haven't really nailed down exactly what their avatar is. What are those qualities? But I would say, make sure that you can verify those things. They can say they're organized. They can say they've been productive, have a way of quantifying, I love what Jessica said about doing that internally, getting people on a pathway or a checklist, and that's kind of proven out a production record. One of the most important things for me is, what is their past production record, and how can I verify that and prove that out? What have they accomplished or done? I don't like to get into hiring interviews that are what I call doobie-doobie-doo interviews. They tell you what they've done and what they've been. I've been this and I've done that. I've been this and I've done that. Yeah, but what did you produce? What was the result? What was the havingness? So when I say doobie-doobie-doo, that's what I'm talking about. And I just like, okay, this is really wonderful. I love hearing you talk about yourself and what you say you've done. So who can I call to verify that, for one, and for two? Like, tell me your best results. Tell me what you're the proudest of. Tell me, what you've gotten done under stress or duress, or what have been your toughest time. Those kinds of things. I want to know real tangible products. And then I'm also going to consult people's willingness. It's actually my last slide. I'm going to give it to you first, because you guys are kind of I asked the question, brought it up. There's an article in the management training from a article from a reference called Model App for Executive. And inside that, at the end of that article, it's laid out the three types of personnel, three types of staff. There's the willing, there's the defiant negative, which those are the guys that always have a problem. It's always like problem, always opposing, defying and working against, or working against you or the group or the project or others, and just seem to fight all the time. They're always fighting something. And then what's called the holy shiftless, the people that don't really care, they're not moved or inspired, the apathetic, that kind of thing. When there's only one of those three classes that are employable, and it's the willing. And the willing can be meek. The willing can be, tentative or shy, right? They could be very productive and still be very well, or they can be very willing and yet a little backed off in certain areas. You just got to put them in the right place in your company. They may not all be the A-level players, but because we've got some great, highly productive, what I'll call B players that we want to move to A, we get rid of C's. C's are just, they're defiant. They become defiant negative. They're unwilling. You just can't move them. Just get rid of them. Just remove them from your group. But we've got some B's, to be honest, that are super productive. They're just not going to go anywhere. And when the wheels start to rattle or things get a little tough, they get a little wigged out. They could be, but they're good at what they do. So we're going to build our company on A's. So enough time spent on that. You really need to look at, who you got to really define precisely. Like I want to hire 6 PTs. We have 5 different avatars that we've created. I can tell you that we've laid out exactly what that hire looks like, because some of them are new grads. Some of them are special. We need a women's health, a pelvic health specialist. We need an aquatic one. Those are very specific avatars. Those are very, very specifically named. They can, we can train people into that. I don't even have to come in as a women's health specialist, but they've got to have a high affinity or desire for that. We need one experienced therapist that's willing to become a manager, and then we've named them all out. We know exactly who we are looking for. Very precisely named. It's a lot easier to get them that way. We know. We also know. We have a pretty good idea now, because we've surveyed what we need to say to attract those people. I should have that written on here. It was originally on the slide. Who do you want, and get it defined. What are you going to say? What do you need to communicate and how much do you need to communicate to attract the interest of that kind of a player? Because in most cases, that person's already working somewhere. They're not looking for work necessarily. So you've got to say something pretty fantastic to get their attention.
Oh,
then,
I got to interject here, Paul,
yeah.
because this is a real topic in the Facebook groups, and it drives me batty. I swear I'm gonna do a webinar on the myths of private practice, because there are so many fixed ideas. It's just kind of crazy. But one of these situations is people talking about how bigger practices are swallowing up their people, and their people are leaving. And there's this, I'm just gonna say it. There's this kind of like victim, no responsibility or low responsibility on that. And the thing that I think owners have to look at is that, especially in this idea of that we have an employee market, meaning you need them more than they need you, because they can go anywhere, but you get a body with a pulse, and you're like, I'm just going to hire this person, even though I already know they're a C. I hear it all the time. But this myth that these bigger clinics that's on you guys. Somebody needs to hear this, even if it's not on this group. The onus is on you as the owner to have a place that people want to work for. Like, that's on you to build a culture. Like, Paul's not just casting out a net and then going like, oh, we don't care who we get, or we get an A+ person. That's all great. We have a C+. We want an A person, but we're a C+ clinic. Like that. Paul's an A. Paul's an A+. So he just has to get that message out there. And so I hear a lot of this very victim-y talk about can't hire. And we've got people in rural areas, like Jessica's in a quasi rural area. She's not in a Mecca. I never heard of Owensboro, Kentucky. And I did now, and I want to visit it even. But Jessica follows a lot of these principles and hires A-level people, because she's always casting that net, like you said, and she's built a culture that people want to work for. And she's really plugged in on that. And then she makes that culture known. So when I hear these owners talking about like, this one's taking their people, and I'm like, yeah, it doesn't really work that way. Like, did they go and poach your people and stand outside in the parking lot and hand them a $5,000 signing bonus? Or did they just run an ad in your town and your person left? Well, they went and they saw something somewhere else. So I just want to make that distinction so that you guys have an opportunity to look and see if you're doing that. It's like when you're dating, right? There became this thing, like a meme of like, or I don't know, my girlfriend's talking about like, I'm going to become the person I'm trying to date. So if I'm trying to date a guy that's got washboard abs and he's super fit and he makes a certain amount of money and he's driven and he's honest and ethical, well, guess what? I better bring my A game. But a lot of times people don't do that. You're sitting there all like, in your no elastic waistband pants and your soggy cereal, and you're like, I'm going to get an A+ guy or gal. And it's like, you got to be that, right? Would you not agree with that, Paul? You're being an A+ guy, right?
100%. You really have to. And the reason I'm bringing this point up on what the what is what you're going to say, what you're going to communicate, what you're going to exhibit. I mean, there's that mantra, right? That what you think becomes what you say or do, and what you say and do becomes your results. So there really is some truth to that paradigm. What's going on in your head becomes what comes out of your mouth to a large degree, and then it's going to dictate or predict your results. But it's really true of recruitment, and the key thing in today's market, and we found that, I tell you what, we're not attracting as many people as we were candidates. It's funny, it's a little tougher competition. That's why we know we've got to up our game, just like when the pandemic hit. The number one hire that I made when the pandemic hit, it was by March, but by April 1, I had a full-time person working in promotion, because we're so dependent upon those relationships, and our promotion has gone out the roof. And I knew we just had to out communicate the marketplace. Guess what? People were sitting at home. They still, we weren't shut down. So I know a lot of clinics got completely shut down. So Fortunately, we were considered in our state and in our area still essential. We did not have to shut down. We had a significant reduction, but during that period from April of 2020 all the way through the various waves, we had to out communicate it. And then I know that we're gonna have to do the same thing. But here's the deal: you can't just send out loads of communication. That's great. You should get your volume up first. You should get the quantity up first, then you'll get better and better at it as you go. But you have to do something to differentiate yourself in the marketplace. Per the definition of branding that I love from a good friend, David Breyer, is differentiate or you die. And if you cannot differentiate you from every other employer out there, you will have a very difficult time even getting leads, potential leads. There's some great players out there. They're not going to talk to you. They're not going to reach out. They're not going to hit your site. They're not going to make the call. Obviously, word of mouth is still the strongest, even in this sector. We've gotten our best hires from, makes sense, right? Friends and family, or friends of A-level players, or fellow students, because they know the beat, they know the vibe, they know the culture, and they attract other people into it. But I think there's a reason for someone to be in every one of your communities. Topeka's the same way. We're not as sexy as Lawrence or Kansas City, but we're very attractive for raising a family. We're very attractive for the cost of living. We're very attractive for youth sports. There's certain, it's so funny. We attract family-oriented therapists with kids. We have tons of kids. I should open I should open a school next to the clinic or something, or a daycare. It would be like perfect to close people, because there's just freaking kids everywhere, right? But guess what? It looks just like Paw and Rocks. We only have 3 daughters, we have 7 grandkids. We ran, when we were in Topeka, we had Nancy doesn't even know this, but I had a soccer club that I started. There was 5 girls teams there with 18 girls on the team, and it was great for business, by the way, but it was part of our brand. So it was about children. That's who we are, and then that became what we communicated about. It became part of our beat. And then where do these people hang out, right? Where do these prospective candidates? You have to figure out, how do I used to be a legislative chair in the state of Kansas for 12 years, so I use this analogy, so bear with me. How do you get your nose under the tent? How do you get into the room and get into communication with folks? Well, now in the digital world, in the social media world, there's all kinds of opportunities, but you better have your message down. You better nail it so that you attract the interest. So I'm gonna blow through these key questions. You guys already asked you guys a question. You really have to define the A player for your business and what they look like. You have to really define very well who you are, your brand. We went through a brand refresh. I paid someone a good chunk of money to not rebrand, but refresh our brand. We launched it last year. We started it in 2020. I didn't want to unleash it until 2021, so we waited to unleash it. And but you need to do a branding not just for your delivery and who you are to the public, but for your potential, your prospect. Obviously, you guys know what and how many positions you need to fill. More on that in a second. And what do they look like? I shared that with you. What's the avatar? Now, I'm not going to ask every one of you this, but who's responsible for hiring? Well, our VP of admin has been, and I've got to pull it off her plate. So I'm hired a dedicated hire. I'm creating the post in my company. That's all someone does, is attract candidates, because it's so important to our growth. We're going to double our leadership team, which I have a very strong leadership team. Every one of those guys is going to get someone underneath them, and they are helping recruit their deputy. I call it, it's a term for it, their deputy. I'm going to provide a deputy system. And what the program, by the way, Nancy, I'm going to talk to Craig and company about, is an executive establishment program for fully establishing executives. So very specific technology to that, because I've been successful with my main guy, like the guys I hang out with, they're killer. They're really good at what they do, but they need help, and they haven't realized that they need to replicate themselves. They didn't realize that I brought them in to I've done everything that they've done, and I just no longer do it. They do a killer job at it. So we're putting a budget in place, we're putting someone in for hiring, we're also budgeting money to get these guys to get more and more staff in there, because we fill the vacuum. We add staff, we get busy. We add staff. There's a balance between technical delivery and administrative staff. If you have questions on that, contact Nancy, because it's not what this is about, but there is a tech to that. And then, how much do you promote? How much do you do? You track your outflow every week. We are doing that now. We're starting to build the amount of communication that we do out, just like we do for our promotion. You gotta. So do you measure? A statistic right now. I just saw an email came in from Janet, our VP admin, this morning before I started this call, and we have what's called an allocation board. We have a certain number of positions open in the company, and guess what? The person we're turning this hiring process over to, that Janet is mentoring, one of their main statistics is it would be the best stat for them would be 0, no positions that need to be filled. 0 would be the top of the graph, as opposed to 100,000 or whatever, $100,000 or something, if that was your target. And then the amount of promotions out, and then what are we spending or allocating to this action. It's so funny. I for years and years and years, I did webinars for foreign with survival strategies. And the most popular one had to do with new business. And almost one for one, when I talked to a new business owner that got on that webinar, because I would talk to every one of them myself. We would, hey, how are you? Tell me about your practice. And then we'd go in. We do that for 10 or 15 minutes, then we'd go in and I'd deliver something to them. And one for one, every one of them had little to no time or money allocation to new business development in their company. And it was fascinating to me, because it was the biggest problem. It was the problem that got them to arrive. It's like, well, but I don't spend any time on it, and I don't spend any money on it. I'm like, okay, well, maybe you should, and it's the same is true in this area of hiring. So there's something that can be done about it there. I'm gonna I already mentioned this point. Surveys are the keys to statistics, or to rising your statistics. So have you surveyed A players to know the right buttons? What's a button? What could you say, or what message could you send or communicate that would elicit a response? A button is, you push a button, you get a response, right? You get, you get, like I'll use marital stuff. My wife knows my buttons. If she wants to get me riled up, she knows what she can say to get me fired up, right? Then that's not necessarily a positive thing all the time. It's good and bad, right? You can go either way on it. It can be positive or it can be negative. But spouses are really good at this, right? They're really good at pushing buttons and eliciting a response. But it's a marketing concept that you need to really nail down for your promotion, because you've got this candidate that you want to attract the interest of and get a response from. You want to push a button and get them to respond. And then you also have you have that for your company too. You have this image or these core values that need to be communicated, that are probably strengths of your company that nobody knows about. It became real to me when I started studying the subject. It was the subject of leadership. I'm going to have to spend some time myself exploring the fact that that I have a good leadership team, and we know this beat. We know this, how to be executives and run our areas and stably, have them stably there and create some expansion. So we need to let that be known as one of our core values. But it's surveyed. It's not what the candidates are asking about. They are looking for mentoring. They are looking for someone to help bring them up the line. But so you need to include what you find out in these buttons or these concepts in your promotion, in your ads and your offers. There's difference, by the way, between an ad, which is what you post up in Indeed or LinkedIn or wherever you're communicating, whatever mediums you're using, or if you're using some form of advertising, and the actual offer that you make. It's really kind of funky is that the most of those platforms, LinkedIn and for sure Indeed, the first thing that you see is really an offer. You're seeing what the compensation would be, what the benefits are, what the pay, what unique features you have to offer. Somehow inside of that, it'd be ideal to be able to embed, what your, some form of an ad is as far as those points of differentiation. So since I mentioned surveys, let me show you a couple of things really quick, because we're going to run out of time here and I want to answer some questions. I'm not even going to get through the full presentation here. So this was a survey we did from past and present physical therapists at Rebound. Here, this is a really complex question. Okay, so bear with me, right? I'm being a smartass. What would you tell a PT as to why they should work at Rebound? Or what would you tell another PT? You can phrase it however you want. So we did this as a live survey. So Janet, our VP admin, surveyed all of our therapists, and I had someone else, this person that's in training, call our past people up and interview them over the phone. And check out, this is what they said. 89% of them said something related to their clinical growth potential, that they were, they knew they could grow as a professional. That's what they tell another ones. You will grow. When you go to Rebound, you will grow as a professional. Okay, you're gonna learn clinically, you're gonna learn organizationally, you're gonna walk out of there a better professional than you walked in. Okay, something to that effect, right? Paraphrasing here. 78% that said that we're a family and everyone works as a team. Kind of generic. So we may have to find out what that means to them. That isn't the button, by the way. This is just, we use that in the message and elicit a response. Let me give you an example, not even a PT example. I was working with a marketing expert. I was at a marketing seminar. This guy, this Italian dude, his name's Andrea D'Agostino, great in the area of marketing. He gave this great example of a button. So he was doing a marketing campaign for a water company. Like one of these healthy water, it wasn't Kangen or whatever, but it was one of these, something like that, some purification system, some healthy water system. And the public, he did a survey and he knew the buyer was moms, okay? But he found the button was, the fundamental on the button was that all moms want to be great moms. They want to be known as a good mother, nurturing, taking care of their kids, nothing would harm, wouldn't let anybody harm my children, that kind of thing, right? So the line, that's the button, right? But the message was or the lead in was, is stop poisoning your children. Killer in a positive way, right? I mean, killer from a marketing perspective, pushing the button of a mom to do anything to protect their children. And then what all that did was get them willing to look at the message, look at the bullet points of what mothers would be doing that would harm their family and their children. And it was, drinking this toxic water. So you've got to take this survey data. The reason I mentioned this is you have to take it and package it up in a way that really will stand out from what other people are saying. So go to, I mean, I'm in the adult world. So go to, has a great landing page site is Athletico, one of those big corporate manga. Athletico and ATI in the private outpatient orthopedic realm have great landing pages. You guys should do the same thing for whoever's killing it in your space. If Diane, I don't know, I haven't looked at Diane's, but look at ABC Pediatric to see what their landing page looks like. There's probably some elements of these things in there. And then from there it goes down to, drops down in half, goes to one-on-one care, what's best for the patient, professional autonomy. You have control over your situation. You can control your income. You can control your schedule for the most part. And then it's rewarding and challenge. We're going to challenge you. So that's what we found from our therapists. Then I just bought a list from all the Kansas PTs. So there's 3,400 PTs in the state of Kansas. And these are some of these numbers will mean more than Nancy. So she'll be able to tell you this is a hot list because we only had 1.3 bounces and 3% subscribers. Yeah, and so we sent out 3,200 emails. Check that out. We had 68% open rate. That smokes.
That is whoever is doing that for you is on fire because that is, I mean, geez. It's
isn't that awesome? So a 10% response rate. So we had 335 do the survey, 256 completed. So 8% is really solid. If you can get a 1 or 2%, you're doing pretty good. But so we've got a good, so of that, check out what they said, okay? This is just the top couple of, we asked several questions, but here was the condensed version of what we came away with. So we know that in our communication, as much as I would want to resist saying something so generic as quality of care, that was the number one answer. 96%, because they're picking, bear in mind, they're answering these questions based upon their current and or past experience on what has been enforced by a former employer. Somewhere along the line, this quality thing became the most important thing, that providing quality care was the most important, and doing what's best for the patient, right? I want to make decisions based upon what's best for the patient, not for the employer, not for the insurer, not for somebody else. Pretty cool, right? So this doesn't this speak of duty, like you were saying, Nancy, this speaks of duty for sure. So we know we can use this in our promotion. And then below that was, having ample time, not being double booked, and then maintaining this work-life balance thing. It really, they're really the most important benefit was paid time off and being able to maintain balance in their life. So, I'm not going to go into this. So this is just a real simple summary statement that Rebound Physical Therapy, a leading private PT practice that shares your goal. Speak to the consumer. Don't speak about you. Quit talking about yourself, right? So we are leading for sure. It's true. And we share your goal of providing quality patient care. Our priority is doing what's best for patients while maintaining work-life balance for our PTs and our staff. So we're talking about them, not us. And then we tell them to join our team. That would just be like a lead-in tagline. That's not a whole ad. And then, the same is true for retaining your staff. And then I'm going to get off here and talk to you guys to wrap this up. But you need to survey what makes folks stay. Why are people hanging around? I asked the question before, for the guys, what would you tell another therapist is why they should work at Rebound or your company? Tell me, why do you stay here? What makes us desirable to hang out with? And remember, you're looking for the majority answers, but also, how you can use that to differentiate your messaging in the marketplace. And I think that's a mistake that's made by a lot of people, is they don't always figure out how am I going to send that message in a way that, like the example I gave of the moms, quit poisoning your family or quit poisoning your children. That's a pretty strong message. So you have to figure out how to position that so that you can get their attention so they'll read the rest of it. So they'll take a look at your company and differentiate. So that's one of the things we do, because we don't have a problem once we get them in the company, because we've got great mentoring. We've got so many areas they can specialize in. They can feel it. People can feel it when they walk into your company. They hang out with the staff for a little bit. They don't meet me. They catch me on video and stuff, but all they see from me is every candidate's going to read the goals and purposes that I write, and then they have to say something about that. They're going to see the goals and purposes of the company right from the start, and we make sure that they align with that. Because if they're not in alignment, it doesn't matter what your strategy is. You will not be able to get that person to produce. We get folks coming in from other companies based upon some of those factors that I showed you on the screen, because that's what they're looking for. And then we have to ring true with it, execute on it. And they really admire you. People don't leave the company. They leave the leadership. They leave their boss.
They leave what, Paul? I didn't get that.
They don't leave the company. They leave their boss. They exit. We have guys exit mainly for geographic reasons. They're moving out of the area. They're not going. They don't leave Rebound to go to work for other people in town. Yeah, and if they do, it's because of either A, they weren't really the right fit. We pushed them to the level that they weren't comfortable. We challenged them, right? We mentor them. We're going to make them more professional. But we already had that agreement with them. But I can tell you that I've talked to another number of other employers, and it's typically the leadership or the boss if they're leaving. Yeah, not necessarily just me. I directly manage my guys, and they've been with me the shortest amount of time, 16 years with my executive team, and they're awesome. They're all A players.
Awesome.
They're A+ players, A++.
They're A++. Like we have them on. There's a couple of lemonades in the lemonade library, and we have Wendy Stanley, who's his patient care coordinator. Oh my gosh, we just love Wendy. And Bert is like, I mean, he is just amazing. Bert's been around for a minute, and it's really great. And to just amplify on that, I told you there's a great chapter in Keys to Private Practice Success about creating that culture. Now, I think the problem with Indeed now, didn't they just add where you have to put the salary on there?
Yeah, you got to put a range. I think you have to put a range on there. Yeah.
You have to put a range in there. Well, the range isn't so bad because you can put the range that they can make with a bonus, because we're big on paying for production, not paying somebody like, you're sitting around, you got cancels and no-shows, and you're sitting there like, oh, well, got nothing to do. So we're big on the applicant who would rather get, this is the killer question, do you want to just make $70,000 a year no matter what? Or do you want to make 60,000, but you could really make 80,000? Like, what you want? The person that wants the latter. You want the person that wants to get paid for production, and then they want to produce. Those are producers. And paying for something you're not getting creates that whole, what we call out exchange, like where the exchange, if you pay $40 for a steak and it's old in a restaurant, you go to a restaurant, you pay $40 for a steak and it's old, and the waitress was kind of not pleasant, and your drink was kind of cold and when it should have been warm, and the vegetables were kind of meh, and the whole thing like doesn't feel like a $40 plate. That's out exchange, like what you're paying for what you're getting. And you really want to avoid those at all costs across the board in your life. You don't want your kiddos out exchange. You don't want your relationships. You don't want your employees to be out exchange either way. You don't want to be out exchange with them where you're cracking a whip and you're getting something, you're getting a lot of stuff for very little money. And you don't want them where they're making a ton of money and they're not producing and they don't want to produce. And in private practice, I will tell you, there's like a real dirty word on production. And I can see why, having run a private practice adult location in Los Angeles, I got to be chummy with some other owners, and I saw the ones that were kind of running a mill, and it really was not pleasant for the patient or the people that worked there. They were not happy. And so I get that, like, sometimes production pushes that button on, oh, you're trying to turn us into a mill where the owner makes a ton of money, the patient gets inferior quality, and I feel unethical. And that's not what we mean by production, right, Paul? That is not what we're talking about when we say that there's got to be a level of production. And it comes up in the PEDS group a lot about production being like this dirty word of like, I don't want my people to experience burnout. And just because you work hard doesn't mean you're going to be burnt out if you're on purpose and you're compensated the right way and your culture is good and it's organized. So I would read that chapter in Keys to Private Practice Success, because we actually, in the Keys to Private Practice Success book club, we went over some ads where you can just tell. It's like, look, guys, if you have a lobster trap and you set a lobster trap off of Maine or Rhode Island, you know what you're going to catch? You're going to catch lobsters. And if you go somewhere else and you cast a net for tuna, you know what you're going to get? Tuna. So you have to think about the net you're casting. If you cast a net and all you're talking about is how much money you pay and how much PTO there is and how relaxed of an environment and culture and it's all kumbaya, guess what? You're going to get someone that's not operating out of a sense of duty and purpose. And then you're going to be like, wow, they don't really fit with my ideal scene. And I hear this all day, every day in the PEDS group. Every day I hear people complaining that their people are leaving for this, that, and the other. And it's your job to get that culture there. And then it seems like, and I might be wrong, but it seems like Instagram is where, OTs and PTs and speech paths are hanging out, like the young, the ones that are young and working, like they're on Insta. And so you want to promote that culture on Insta. And there's a couple of you guys that have done these great fun videos and you post them there. And don't think for a minute, I'm a clinician looking for a job. And I go on and I see, oh, look, Jessica Hatfield is hiring in Owensboro, Kentucky. I don't know if I necessarily want to live there. I don't know if she's paying the great amount that I could go get in Louisville or whatever. And so they go look, they go check out your Facebook page. They go check out your website. They go check out your Instagram. And they're like, wait a minute, they're having so much fun. And that, I cannot tell you how you need to invest in that. We did there's a lemonade where I had Uplift Marketing on there, and we talked about the importance of videoing your fun and your culture and making it known and getting the right equipment to do that. So these are all the things, having somebody full-time. If you're smaller and you cannot afford to have someone that is their sole job, is like, you're just going to have a hiring officer like Paul can. That's great. That's a great level to want to get to. But if you can't, make somebody, start them off with an hour a day, start them off with a half hour a day, move them up to an hour a day, move them up to 2 hours a day. And then when you're having more people, because peds have the opposite, most peds have the opposite problem of adult. Adult need new patients every 6 weeks. Peds usually have a wait list. Most markets have a wait list. You can't get to those kiddos. So that's kiddos you can't help, and that's revenue you can't get in. So when you hire those people, it's vital because you can get through those wait lists much, much faster. And that means more kiddos helped and more patients helped. And that's the name of the game. So we've hit the 9 o'clock hour. Who's popping off? Beth Fleming popped off. All right. Bye, Beth. I'm going to let everybody go. Guys, this one was a weird week. Hi, Susan, Greg, you were driving. Now you're stationary. Hi, good to see you. So guys, the juice is the first Wednesday of every month. And there's a couple of months where it competes with lemonade. We know that. And we had a little snafu last week. That's why you're here. So the juice will not be here in 2 weeks. It'll be here the first Wednesday in May. And if that's not when we're off to, we should have that. We got to see. We come back from Atlanta, and I got to see what our schedule looks like and how many people we have up and willing and ready to do this. So guys, I want to thank you for your time. Big hats off and hands to Paul, always giving us really good information. I hope you guys got something for today. We value your time, so we want to make sure we offer you resources that work. If you want to check out Survival Strategies and you haven't, it's survivalstrategies.com. Please pardon our website. We are in the middle of redoing it. It's going to be gorgeous. And if you're peds, we want you to go check out pizzapalooza.com. Check out pizzapalooza.com/resilience for the Atlanta live conference. And you guys go do what you do best. Go treat those patients and go lead them up. Go get those A players, okay? Thanks, everybody.